Before we get started, I want to thank our community partner, Epilepsy Foundation of America, and sponsors Neurelis and SK Life Science. Thank you so much for believing in this podcast, for making conversations like this possible, and giving us a space to talk about our epilepsy what the F moments. Okay, here we go. And so here we are, guys. I've just fangirled out on JenVon Cherry for her name. And she is not only like one of the most amazing humans in the whole world, but also the founder and CEO of Epitome of Epilepsy, which is a nonprofit dedicated to creating community for people living with epilepsy and making a difference. And the work that has been done in the last, it'll be almost 10 years, right?
It'll be actually 5. It'll be 5 this year. It's already been in July. This past July, it was 5 years.
And you and I have talked about this before, how important it is to have conversations about what it means to have epilepsy and not even talk about the seizure part. Because I feel like, and I hear this from so many people, like, I don't even remember the seizure, but I remember after the seizure, or I remember, I haven't had a seizure in X amount of months, years, but I still deal with these issues. And I think it's time to dive into these issues because it's so common for someone living with this to not have seizures and still have issues, or have seizures and still have issues. And so, and I know your journey, particularly, with cognitive issues, which again is something I relate to, we all relate to, was kind of like a turning point for, what you were dealing with.
So I've been diagnosed with epilepsy since I was 6 years old. The older I got, I feel like my cognitive issues declined, but I really didn't notice anything until I moved back home for me being in Atlanta. And COVID happened, COVID goes away, and I'm working here in Charleston, where I'm from. And I start to notice that I'm having a hard time remembering things. I write down a lot of things anyway, but it was so bad where I would write down things and I couldn't remember, like, why did I write that down? It wouldn't
Oh,
jog my
yeah.
memory. And even though
I've
now,
been there. I get that. Like, even just saying that, I feel seen,
yeah,
like,
I like,
yeah,
why did I write that down? Or in the middle of a meeting, well, JenVon, you brought up this in the last meeting. I did. I can't remember.
hmm
And it sometimes, even now, like, you may not hear it, but my speech sometimes gets a little flocky and non-existent sometimes. So I brought this to a doctor that I was seeing, and she just said, "Oh, it's okay, it'll pass." I told my
it'll
mom,
pass.
"It'll pass." You heard what I said, it'll pass. Oh, it's okay. It's just the side effects from the medication, they'll go away. But I always tell people to advocate for themselves, because I had to say, no, mommy, something is wrong. Like, I'm having serious issues at work. Of course, we remember to take our medication, because I feel like that's like clockwork for me. But it was the other stuff around, like the cognitive issues. I was having issues with work. I remember waking up one morning, it was like a Thursday or Friday, and my mom came to get me. I'm still in the bed, and she was like, "JenVon, you not going to work?" And I was like, "Oh crap, I do have to go to work today." Like, it was just,
Just like left your brain.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to verbalize how I was feeling. And me going to a neurologist or epilepsy specialist, in my head, I thought that they would be able to help me pinpoint exactly what is going on. So I left that doctor, told my mom I
Mm.
wanted to go to an old doctor that I had been seeing when I was a teenager. I found him, got an appointment. I'm not lying to you. The first day I went to him and I told him all the issues I was having with my concentration, my speech, my cognitive issues, my memory, he said, "You need to have a some type of test." I can't remember. I can't remember
Yeah.
the
Well,
test.
two epileptics trying to remember the name of a
Right.
test.
I can't.
I think it's,
I can't. I
and I
can't
think
call.
I'm just gonna throw it out there, but I think it's cognitive behavioral testing.
That's it.
Okay.
It lasted for 2 days. Like, I had one day of
Yeah.
testing and the second day of testing. So, and it took like a week or two to get the results. And as soon Dr. Bumgardner was on it, he was like, "All right, this sounds like you may need to do some testing." And look, I'm thinking I did a good job in the testing. I really did. When we got the test back, my doctor said, your cognitive skills have declined significantly. Your memory has declined. Now, mind you, I'm not newly diagnosed. This is
Mhm.
35, 36 years old, epilepsy, and I've been taking medication practically all my life. So
Mhm.
it wasn't so much of the seizures that I was dealing with, it was the other stuff surrounding the seizure, surrounding the medication that actually just beat me down. And I couldn't work
Wow.
anymore. My doctor, I looked at him and I was like, well, I'm still going to work. He said, Miss Cherry, you're going to have to take a step back. You are really going to have to stop working and get on disability. Oh my gosh, I'm about to cry
Wait, yeah.
because that was so difficult for me. Um, being
Yeah.
having epilepsy, working is like independence for me. And I just didn't know where to turn. I felt isolated going to meetings and no one else feeling the way that you feel, and you kind of being, I don't want to say bullied, but that's how I felt. I felt like I was being bullied for having a invisible disability that nobody could see. I
Mhm.
felt like I was being bullied by my coworkers for
Mhm.
trying to tell them and explain to them, if we had training, I'm not going to get everything. It's going to take me it may take me a while to get it, but I felt like I was being ostracized due to my epilepsy, due to these cognitive issues. And when I thought about it, I prayed about it. And I knew, I'm not even going to lie, I knew I needed to stop working, but it was the go getter in me like, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to go to work.
Yeah.
But I had to succumb.
Well, I wanna pause on that because you said something so, just so prolific in that you said, with epilepsy, working is independence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I've something I've never thought about before and is so true because we are given all these limitations because of epilepsy.
Yep.
And then by like being in an office environment or whatever environment it is, but having work, having something that's
Years.
like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it really does feel it's an empowering
Yeah.
feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Like
can't
we can't
imagine when
drive, and depending on someone to take us from A, B, C, oh my gosh, she dropped something. Is she about to have a seizure? Oh my gosh, she forgot something again. But
yeah.
working was my total independence. I felt confident. I felt secure, but I felt like as soon as these issues were coming up, and I knew months, probably a year before it gotten so bad, but I didn't want to say anything because I knew that this part of my life was going to have to be shut down. But when it got so bad to, I'm going to work and I'm trying to remember certain things, and the way I got treated at work made me feel like I just didn't belong.
Mm, yeah.
I just didn't belong. And people, what we see on TV, like the big grand mal seizures on TV, like that's not
Yeah.
what epilepsy is.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
That's just,
for some people, it
for
is.
some people, it is. For some people, the big
Right.
grand mal seizures, that happens. But
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there's so many other things that we deal with besides the seizures that really
Yes.
affect our day-to-day lives.
Yes. And you're just bringing back so many memories of when I worked in an office too. And I remember just like the constant of writing things down, rewriting them down. Like it's probably the reason, I think it's the reason I became organized. I wasn't an organized person until I
Mm-hmm.
had epilepsy because it was just like I needed reminders everywhere.
Every
I need like 14 calendars
14.
in different places to keep me straight, and I'll still forget things. And it's just like for me, I was overcompensating. I was like trying to take on more work to prove that I could do
Mm-hmm.
things even though I
That
dropped the
was
ball
me.
on other things. Yeah.
That was
And
me.
yeah. And it's like
That
we come
totally
from
was
this
me.
place of deficit where we're like, I
Yeah.
feel like I have to climb out of this,
Mm-hmm.
hole of
Mm-hmm.
epilepsy and be like this shining, perfect, bright employee
Right.
bee.
So you exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's how I felt. But I also felt that I was in a safe space. it's hard for us to say, yes, I have epilepsy because I've lost jobs due to my seizures. I have been fired due to my epilepsy. So when
What?
I knew that I have epilepsy and I'm made to feel safe, but once
Yeah.
I get the job, I'm made to feel a whole type of way. That just makes me look like, well, what type of organization am I working for? What
Yep.
type of institution am I working for? And I mean, I'm not lying. I can recall having a seizure and hearing my coworkers, I'm tired of her getting sick. I'm tired of taking care of her.
Oh, that's
While
so
I'm on the
awful.
floor, and my mom is walking in to pick me up. And within 2 seconds, I hear them. And as my mom is walking in the door, I can see her. I'm still on the floor
Mm.
and they're by the door waiting for my mom. And I hear the door shut and I can also hear them talking about me.
Wow.
That just doesn't feel
Oh,
good,
JenVon, that's fucking awful. Like,
isn't it?
well, it is, and then it just gets me to, like, my brain starts spinning and being like, "Okay, how do we change this? Because how do we
I
change
don't
this?"
know. I
Like,
don't
is this a
know.
humanity issue where just people just
Mm-hmm.
kinda suck? Or is it just because people don't know? Like, if it were something else,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that also is a personality trait of just someone who's like, "I'm tired of helping." It's like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, fuck off then. Don't,"
Mm-hmm.
but, like, also, I just wonder if there was more knowledge out there about what to do. Like, the fact you're still on the floor, the fact that you're alone and
Mm-hmm.
going through this, like, wasn't there
Mm-hmm.
someone in that space
But
that could
I
be like,
tried to create a space where we did a seizure 101. I did that at Georgia State when I was
"Wow,
working at Georgia State University in
that is
Atlanta.
so
When I
awesome."
was here, I was like, all right, well, let me see if I can implement the same tools.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my supervisor at the time and I let her know what I wanted to do. And she was okay with it. I did a seizure 101. We always know that our seizure safety rule, to have a seizure plan, and these were things I had at work. I had them on my desk.
Mhm.
But I just don't think if you don't have epilepsy, if you don't live with the chronic illness, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. Some people do have that caring heart for the time. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry you have to go through that. But from someone saying that to you that doesn't have to live the life that you live, I'm pretty sure people are empathetic, but I don't know. It's just weird because you do have people that, oh my gosh, anything that you need, but then you have others that's not my issue.
Mhm. It's almost like you have to create a seizure safety plan that involves dealing with assholes.
Hmm.
Like,
That's what I had to do.
yeah, like, and kind of like, okay, so you've got like what to do for like, a seizure, which is like the
Hmm.
immediate stuff. But then
Hmm.
like almost like the in between things, which is what we're talking about, right? The in between when you're not having seizures. Like, okay, what is
Hmm.
my safety plan when I'm dealing with a jerk, you know?
Hmm.
And then what does that look like? Because I think that that could kind of help soften the blow about
Good.
the stuff that we deal with when we're
It
not
could.
having seizures too.
And I also think that, when you work in certain places, I think now they're trying to do a better job, especially with epilepsy, having a protocol. But
Mhm.
when I was working, even though I wasn't having seizures and I'm going to my supervisor or my coworker, I'm having issues with this. Could you help me? I had one person tell me, I'm tired of helping you. Like you always need help. It's always something with you. And
Wow.
to say that, oh, for someone to say that
That's
to
so
me,
awful.
um,
I'm so
it makes
sorry.
it just makes you feel inadequate. It makes you
Mhm.
feel alone because you are really trying to do your best to be the best employee that you can be. And I had a really good job. I was the lead certifying official for the VA. And I loved my job, but it became overwhelming when you work with other people. And I'm not saying that I needed to be or whomever needed to be babied, but we know that we learn differently.
Yep.
So me learning differently may not look like how you can sit there in a training for an hour and you automatically have everything. That's not my brain.
And I feel like that's not a lot of people's brains.
It's I mean, it should.
Like, I don't know, I was a teacher. We learned that not everyone learns that way. Like,
Everybody doesn't learn the same.
right.
And it's just, we don't live, and unfortunately, we just don't live in a world where people are that empathetic anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. It's kind of,
Especially
I I I agree with that. Or maybe we're just learning that people were never were empathetic. Now they're just coming out and showing it. I don't know.
their true colors.
There's yeah, exact everyone's like, "I'm gonna be my authentic self. I'm gonna be an asshole." That's what everyone's telling me. Be true to myself.
I don't
Um,
know.
so what okay, you had to step back from work, due to your doctor's recommendations, and what were the next steps for you from there?
Honestly, I was depressed for about a year and a half.
Mm,
That
I'm so sorry.
depression looked like I didn't want to get up out of bed. I didn't want to eat. Or sometimes when I did eat, I would overeat.
Mm,
I would just, and I still go through this. I feel like it's always me versus me in my head, in my thoughts. I'm always battling with myself. And during that time, I was really battling myself. Like, what is there for me to do? I have no purpose.
mm,
I have no being. And being transparent, I didn't want to be here
yeah.
because I felt so um, beat down. And not just with life, like, why did this have to happen to me? If I was okay, I would still be able to work. If I
Mhm,
didn't have seizures, I'll be able to drive. If I didn't have seizures, I may be able to have a child.
mhm,
So these were things that were going on in my head. But after about a year and a half, and these are still things I fight with, but I feel like I'm in a much better space right now. I'd already had epitome of epilepsy, but I wasn't able to do everything that I wanted because I was still working full time. So once I was told that I couldn't work like that, my mom, my boyfriend, my brother, you need to do this epitome of epilepsy. Like, my
wow.
mom has said to me since I was probably in high school, middle school, that you didn't have this for a reason. There is a reason why you have this, the reason why, even though it was a traumatic accident, but there has to be a reason. And now I'm seeing the benefits and the reason why I had to go through all of this was just to share my story.
Mm. Ooh, I was trying not to cry like 14 times, because you had so many beautiful sentiments in there and so many real ones that I really appreciate you sharing, but when you said it was always me versus me,
Mm-hmm.
oof, yeah,
Always
100%,
me, 100%, like always
because
me versus
yeah.
me.
Yeah, and it's like and I'm so sorry for I appreciate you sharing, that depression, and I'm so
Mm-hmm.
sorry that you went through it, and I can 100% relate to that. And I think a lot of people with epilepsy can and do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's just one of those things that like you said, like you go in and out of it and kind of
Mm-hmm.
accepting with our epilepsy that comes with these other things like depression or like anger or like
Right.
cognitive issues, all of those things, because it's kind of like this cyclical thing where it's like some days I'm not so pissed about it and some days
Mm-hmm.
I am, and trying to navigate how to ooh, be, navigate the me versus me.
Me, yeah, trying to be a better version of yourself.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
can be difficult. It can be extremely difficult. And, like when I mentioned, I had somebody ask me, how do you deal with epilepsy from being a young girl all the way up to adulthood?
Yeah.
And all I can say is, uh, for instance, like I just talked about me not being able to have kids. So I've had epilepsy all my life and been on medications that have ruined my woman parts. So
Oh my
I
goodness.
can contribute to someone saying, hey, I need help or I need some guidance or I need some advice on how to deal with having epilepsy as a young person. I mean, I know it's not a feel. I've dealt with epilepsy in every stage of my life and I'm still dealing
Mhm.
with it. I had
Mhm.
one of my brother's friends actually tell me, well, your sister should be fine now. She don't have seizures no more. I saw that she was 1 year seizure free. What? I was like, yeah, no. Yeah,
Cured. What does that mean? Yeah.
not cured. And
Oh.
I mean, I still have aura. We all do. We still all have auras and
Mhm.
knowing your triggers. But it's always, and these are the things in my head. Like, okay, I've reached my 1 year, but if I feel a new aura or notice a new trigger, oh crap, this is gonna mess me up.
Mhm.
Here I go again. And in
Mhm.
my head, even like with this podcast, I'm not even gonna lie, that my anxiety was like, oh goodness, you have to talk and you have to make sure you are being transparent and honest. I hope I come off transparent. I hope I come off honest. I hope
100%. Yeah. I'm like mesmerized right now by your transparency and honesty. I feel like this might be a therapy session for me. Like, so seen.
I know it's weird. It's
Yeah,
weird. I
it is.
it that's the only way I can say it's just weird. You
It
make
is
me feel
weird.
seen for you to
Oh,
say that
good.
you can look at me and see some of your story and myself. That makes me feel seen. That makes me, you know what? At least I know I'm not crazy. At least I know I'm not going through certain things alone.
Mhm. Isn't
Mm.
that the thing? I feel
Yeah.
like that once there's, like, little things where you're like, "Oh my god, I'm not going crazy. Oh my god, no, I'm not going crazy. I'm not going crazy." I feel like that has been the theme for my
Mm-hmm.
epilepsy, is just wondering if I'm crazy and then finding someone else who's done felt similar, and I'm like, "Okay, good. Whew,
Oh,
not crazy."
I'm not crazy.
Yep. Yep, even this week, I've been going through that just because I've been doing med changes, and I was like, "I'm having
I
this
remember
really."
you saying that.
Yeah. Oh, I've been having this weird reaction and I was like, this is nuts. I don't know what's going on. And then I found
Mhm.
someone on some forum who said like literally my experience. And I was like, thank you. I don't know who you are. You said this like 8 years ago, but you're helping me. Um, yeah. And it's just like that validation over and over and over to know that we're not insane and that this is, because the medications that we're on are affecting are affecting our everything. It's like,
Every
yeah.
it even affects my freaking balance. Like I don't even. I feel
Oh,
like
yes. Oh my god, the balance thing.
the balance is just not balancing at
No,
all. And oh my
no.
god.
My
Mm.
husband called me drunk uncle. He was like he's like, from the first time we started dating, he's like, "You drunk uncling right now?" I'm like, "You bet." Like, I just, lost my balance again. And then,
My
like,
boyfriend
again.
makes fun of me too. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
he says I'm gonna put something on your wrist and on mine so we can just walk straight together because like I don't know what you want me to do. I can't
Yeah.
walk. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. But you
Yeah.
know, it's good that you found somebody that can
Yeah.
understand you, that not even not to relate, but just to
Oh, yeah.
compassionate. You know, because dating
Totally.
with epilepsy is whew,
Oh, boy. That's a
that's a whole nother episode.
oh, yeah.
A whole
I
nother episode.
I mean, it is the worst,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really hard. And I think, once you find someone who knows it's a big deal, but
Mm-hmm.
also knows it's not a big deal.
Oh,
And,
I like that. I like that.
you know, they
Mm.
respect it, but it's not changing how they feel about you. That
Oh,
is, and I saw that in a friend of mine first. I saw that, she was engaged and I think I'm quoting her fiance at the time. They're now married.
okay.
And yeah, and he was like, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. And I was like,
Mm.
ooh, that's what I need to find.
That.
And then I did. And it's like once you have that feeling, you know it. Cause I would always be like, is this a guy who kind of does it? No, 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 no. There's just, if you're questioning it, no,
He's
mm,
not it.
no.
He's not. I had to go through that. I did. Lord, I went through that a lot. My last relationship before I found my forever boo, my forever man right now was bad. But you know,
Mhm.
I feel like too, people, us having epilepsy, we have to learn to accept ourselves. And that took a lot for me. That took years for me to learn how to accept. I'm not even gonna lie. I was living a life and I acted like my epilepsy did not exist at all.
It's the same thing.
I
Yep. Yep. I
was
would
just like,
I would
oh, it's
lie
there.
to
Yeah.
everyone, to
Me.
myself, like, just lie, and I'm not a good liar. So,
I'm not, it did not work at
no.
all. And
Mm-mm.
when I had the confidence to say, you know what, this isn't going away. So me accepting myself is also accepting that epilepsy part in the journey, good or bad, indifferent. but it's still just accepting myself. And once I did that, I feel like the right person came to me.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be with someone who's going to be not just understanding, but compassionate, with someone that's going to notice stuff before you do sometimes. Because he'll say, you don't look right. You okay? You need rest? Oh, I'm fine. I don't know. But you want to be with someone like that, you know?
Yeah,
So, and
totally.
you do. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that, you know, you found someone, because I've run into so many people. I get inboxes, you know, how did you start dating? I'm embarrassed, or
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been that person that didn't say anything. And this is just me being honest. My last relationship was an abusive relationship, and I was penalized. If I had a seizure, he would get upset. I'm so serious. And when I say penalized, like he would hit me. And I this went on for like a year. And I was like, oh no, this is not good at all. I didn't tell my mom, I didn't tell my friends. I called one of my best friends because I'd had a really, really bad seizure. And I called him to let him know I couldn't get a hold of him. When he called me back, he said, the world doesn't revolve around you just because you had a seizure. So you need to stop calling me.
Oh.
Yes. So I am crying. I am boohoo
Oh.
crying. I called my best friend and she was like, wait, what? He said, what to you?
Mhm.
Automatically, she got the rest of my friends on the phone, and I was honest about it. And I told them everything. And they
Oh.
were like, JenVon, you need to leave.
Mhm.
But I was so afraid to leave,
Yeah.
because when someone tells you you're not going to find anybody because you have seizures, you're not going to find anybody to love you. You got
Yeah.
something wrong with you. Who else is going to like you? Who else is going to love you? I
Yeah.
started to believe those things.
Mhm.
I started to believe, oh, you know, I'm not that great. Yeah, I do have epilepsy. No one
Yep.
is going to love me. But
Yep.
listen, that fight I had in me was like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. We doing this at all. But
Oh, I am
you
so
know,
sorry that you went through that. That is so it's just it's awful, and like awful is a stupid adjective because I can't find one that fits. Um, but I think unfortunately, whether it's to that severity or not, a lot of people with epilepsy dating go through something similar.
mhm,
You know, it's
exactly.
like we date not only do we work from deficit, but we date from deficit too, where we
Yes.
think, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, like I would put any guy I dated on a pedestal because what a saint. Oh my gosh, he's going
Oh,
out with
oh,
me
you
and I
sound
have
like
epilepsy. Wow. You know, like he was just like some holier dude
God.
because
Oh
he
God, he's so, oh my, oh, he picked me up from work. Oh my goodness. Not saying that I had to wait 2 hours, but ooh, he picked me up. Y'all don't understand because y'all don't have epilepsy. I literally was, now when I look back, like on my younger life and dating, I didn't know my self-worth. I really didn't, because
Mhm.
I was dating people who I felt like accepted a different version of me. And that was probably the representative that I put out, because I didn't want to accept myself for who I really was.
Mhm. I
That
love how
was
okay,
good. I
God, you
know,
just
right?
you need like oh, I need like quotes by Jen Von, like in my inbox, like because I can't even pick one right now. But like when you just said like, I didn't accept myself, and the representative that I sent though, I think that is such
Mhm.
a great thing to just talk about because we do when we're dating send
Yeah,
a representative of ourselves. And I think everyone does that whether or not they have epilepsy. The first date is like, this is my best
yeah.
representative on the first date, here to make a good impression, blah, 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 blah. But like then when you have epilepsy, it's like, this is my best representative that has no illnesses and is totally healthy and can do
Mhm.
whatever you like. Yeah, we can go out late. Yeah, we can, it's like, no.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, wow. I am so, so happy that you and Dwayne found each other and that he's so
Yeah.
supportive. So for everyone who's watching on YouTube, Dwayne like popped in for a second and he's all merched out in Epitome of Epilepsy stuff, like the hat, the shirt, and he's like
Oh,
all
so
day, every
that
day. And I
was
was like,
my
I fucking
brother.
love you. Oh,
That was my brother.
I thought you said that's my boyfriend.
No,
And
that's
you're
my
pointing.
brother. He's another one. He don't
Oh.
play. He does not play when it comes to me. And I meet people that don't have supportive family and friends.
Mhm.
You need that dealing with this.
Mhm.
Dealing with epilepsy is a chronic illness that we know is never going away. There is no cure. And you need to have support. You need to have some type of support system, whether that's family, friends, church, a journal, just so you can have a different
Yes.
outlet to get. Because even with us, you are giving me life, I'm giving you life. And I'm like, dang, I'm really not in this alone. I'm really not fighting by myself. There are other people out here just as bad as me trying to spread their awareness and trying to use their voice.
Absolutely. I love that. That's just so beautiful and so true. And I also love how you said, like, whether that's your family, friends, a journal, or
Mhm.
something else, because I think there are so many people out there who, like, with the family they've been given, don't have that support. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people that do, and that's awesome. And I love
Awesome.
that too. But I don't want to, sometimes when the family that you've been given doesn't support you, it
Mhm.
makes it's kinda like you gotta go out and find
Yeah,
that family for
you do.
yourself, right?
Mhm.
And that's not an easy task, especially when you have epilepsy, 'cause you're like, "I can't even leave my house.
Mhm.
How am I supposed to find a family?" You know?
Absolutely.
But I
Ab-
love that you said, like, a journal even,
yeah. I
just
journal a
something.
lot. I journal good and bad days. I journal. And I think it's important because sometimes, even though, look, I go to a therapist, I think it's important for you to have an outlet,
Me
but
too.
also journaling is important because in a different way, I can say my emotions, I can express my emotions while I'm writing. And
Totally.
that gives me even I don't know if I'm maybe weird, but I look back on my journals. I read them and I'm like, wow, I'm in a different space than I was when I wrote in there. And now like I'm on
So
my new journal
awesome.
now and it's not as dark, if that makes
Wow.
sense.
It does, and I think that's so
It's,
cool too to
yeah, it's not as dark because I can
yeah.
recall looking back and writing things like, man, I was in a really dark spot. And
Yeah.
now when I'm journaling, my journal days don't feel as dim and dark as they used to be. And
Wow.
I'm going to always advocate and say that journaling and even like self care, people, I had someone ask me, like, what do you mean by self care in epilepsy? We need self care. Like, take me to go get a massage. Like, self
Yeah.
care for someone who has epilepsy, especially if you just had a seizure, it's important. Don't
Mhm.
forget to take care of yourself in the midst of you having a chronic illness. Never forget to take about yourself.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love that, and it's so true just because I think sometimes we're so worried about other people's perceptions, and
Mhm.
especially when we've been treated as the way you've described, and coming to believe that we're a burden,
Mhm.
our seizures are annoying, we should be punished for them. All those awful things that we deal with sometimes get unfortunately internalized, and it's like good to have those reminders, like you said,
Mhm.
self-care, take care of yourself,
Yep.
like you're number one. I love
Yep.
it.
Yes. I put
Um,
sticky notes on my mirror. Myself affirmative. What? How do you pronounce it?
affirmations.
Yes, I
Yes.
put those on my mirror. Today's going to be a good day. You are
Oh,
beautiful. Know your self worth. Think ahead. Think beautiful thoughts. Just to remind myself that even though it's a battle sometimes with me versus me, like there's some good thoughts in there. We want the good thoughts to flourish sometimes.
I felt like a calm come over me when you were speaking, like truly, like I was just like, oh, like I saw all those and I felt them. That's really beautiful. That's like, I'm gonna copy and paste what you just said
Yeah.
and make some sticky notes. I love it. So, can you tell us, a little bit more about Epitome of Epilepsy and what your foundation does, all the amazing work you guys are doing? And then I know we've got an event coming up pretty soon in November that I want to talk about too.
So, Epitome of Epilepsy is like my baby. We are a nonprofit organization based out of Charleston, South Carolina. And I started the nonprofit organization because I felt like I didn't see any representation of myself talking about an illness that there is no cure. We hear a lot about other illnesses, but we don't hear anybody talking about epilepsy like that. So I started epilepsy, and I felt as though in my community, in the Black and Brown community, it wasn't a spotlight on it. And me starting Epitome of Epilepsy to me gives it a spotlight in my community. We do walks and galas. They're annual every year. We have been invited for different vendor spots. I've spoken this year at a middle school regarding a health fair, and we had our first A seizure training last month, and it was really good. And next month we will have our first health fair at Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. And
Wow.
lastly is our big gala that we have every single year. And honestly, I'm just blessed because I'm around people that want to help and that want to see Epitome of Epilepsy be bigger than I can even imagine. And right now, like doing you talking about you, girl, I'm totally fanning. Do you know how long I have been watching you and just listening? Like, oh my gosh,
No.
love to
Really?
just chat. Yes.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm like, I don't do well with
Yes.
compliments. I'm like gonna hide
I
under my desk right
You
now.
are amazing in my
Oh,
book.
thank
And the fact
you.
that you hold this
You.
podcast, this platform, it's amazing. You give
Thank you.
me and other people in the epilepsy community hope and a platform to talk, about our story in a different light for others to feel heard and seen.
Yes. I mean, and I feel like that's the one thing I can do is,
Mm-hmm.
put other people's stories out there so that we have a touchstone.
Yeah,
That's all I want this to be. It's just a
exactly.
touchstone, everyone to feel like they're not alone. But
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you saying that. That truly means the world to me.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm still working on how to accept compliments. Like, I don't know if you saw me like crawling out of my skin. I'm like, but thank you.
I can tell you
Thank
were
you.
like, wait a minute, this is new. Wait a
Yeah.
minute, no. No, no. But our gala is November the 9th here at North Charleston Hotel. It's called Crown Plaza International Hotel. And the best part is our speaker for this gala is the president of the Epilepsy Foundation, Mrs. Bernice Lee. So if y'all don't know who she is, she's like making major moves. So the fact
Mm-hmm.
took her major moves and she was like, you know what? I'm gonna go speak at the Jewels of Epilepsy Gala. I'm super hyped. I really am. I have no words. I'm just so, I don't know, I may
I mean,
cry.
she's so
And
awesome. She
she
is just
is.
like, she's just another real, authentic,
Mm-hmm.
amazing, and just wildly successful person.
Down
And,
to earth.
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
all the things where you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
can we be best friends?
Yeah, and when you think of people having such a high title, like you wouldn't think that she would be so nice and open and kind. Her
Mm-hmm.
spirit is just so beautiful. I have
Yes.
met presidents before and they are just very standoffish. I
Mhm.
am the president, but you don't get that from her. She is I love her.
Same, same. Oh yeah, I think we both have a mutual
Yes,
fangirl about with B
we
because
do.
she's just so great. Like
She
she's
is
just
like, she is.
on
She's,
every level. I feel like
yeah.
if I had met her out in the world, not knowing who she was or anything like that, like I like to think we would have become friends. Like just bumping into each other in the world because that's just who she is. She's just a very warm,
Mm-hmm.
understanding person, and like I love that she's the speaker at the Epitome or of Epilepsy Gala. Which I'm sorry, I'm messing up the name. It's called Jules. The gala is called.
It's called Jewels of Epilepsy Gala, and the
Yes.
reason it's because most like we have the Jewels of Epilepsy Walk, the Jewels of Epilepsy Gala. So I think of us when we make jewelry, especially jewels. It's kind of a big deal. It can be difficult to get that jewel the way that you want it to be, and I feel like we who are living with epilepsy do have hard lives, and out of that are made jewels, beautiful things.
Wow, that's
Boom,
beautiful.
boom. So that's what I.
Which, like, I also want to talk about your Instagram and TikTok right now because your content is so good. And it just reminded me of that just now. Like, and you have such a big following. It's so engaging. And like I think I might have like texted you this story, but I can't even remember if I told you because I have epilepsy. I don't remember shit. But I was in the UPS store I don't know, months ago. And I like someone, because I know that my UPS gals, and someone was like, "Oh, how are you doing? How have your seizures been?" Blah blah. And this other one pops up. She's like, "Oh, you have epilepsy?" I said, "Yeah, I do." She's like, "I'm following this amazing TikTok person. It's called
What?
Jewels of Epilepsy," and
That
she's like,
is.
This UPS worker who's awesome, she has no connection to epilepsy. She's like, "I didn't know what epilepsy was. I don't know anyone with it." I was like, "Well, now you do, you know me." And she's like, so she was fangirling over you because, like, of the content you create. She's like, "Oh my god, please tell her how grateful I am." I was like, "Oh, I will 100% tell her. This is so cool. Like, I just met your fan in a UPS store. Like, the work you're
That
doing
is so
so
crazy.
amazing. It's so amazing because it's on every single level. You've got galas, you've got walks, you've got informational things, and then you've got social media, and you're just hitting people on so many levels. And I just want to thank you so
Oh,
much
thank you. I
because
appreciate that. That
you
means a lot.
will talk about a gem in the epilepsy community. That is you,
Thank
100%.
you. Oh,
Um, and before we wrap up, I would like to ask you 3 questions that have nothing to do with what we just talked about.
okay.
Number one's pretty easy. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're my second guest who's ever said that. You would think on this podcast, everyone's favorite
Right.
color would be purple.
Right.
Like, no, I was like, yeah, and I love it. But also, if you haven't seen the logo for Epitome of Epilepsy, you need to go check it out. It is purple and beautiful and a butterfly. Yes. Oh, we got it right on camera now. It's gorgeous. Number two, what's your favorite movie or TV show or something you could just watch over and over again?
One of my favorite shows that I can watch over and over again is Martin.
Oh God.
Yes. I
It's
can watch
so
Martin
good.
every day, and I do watch it every day, and I laugh like I've never seen it before.
That's such a great rewatch because I don't think I've watched it since I was younger, since it was
Yeah.
out like on
I think
television.
it's funny that the new kids are like talking about it like Martin's been on for years. I still watch it to this day.
I
I
love
still
it.
watch it.
Well, Martin Lawrence is pretty
He's pretty funny.
yeah, pretty good one to watch. Just watched rewatched Blue Streak, a movie that he did
Oh
with
yeah, Blue
it's
Street.
oh
Yes.
so good. He's so good. Okay, number 3, what does it mean to you to be a friend?
I think being a friend is, I would say loyal, but I would say honestly being compassionate,
Mm,
because in good and bad times, sometimes a friend can need an ear and they don't even want you to say anything. They just want you to listen. And I think being a friend means being compassionate.
absolutely. And I love that how you're saying, being compassionate is just listening sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I have days, I call my friends, I'm not having a good day and I don't need them to say anything. I just want them to be an ear. That's all. So
mhm.
being compassionate as a friend can look so many different ways. For me, sometimes when I'm having a bad day and I want to talk, I don't need you to say anything. I just need you to listen.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, especially too, because you're like, this is just me. This is
Yeah.
not, one size fits all.
Mm,
You're a very whole person.
thank you. See, I didn't want to cry. I feel like I got a little emotional, but I appreciate, the compliments because I don't get them all the time. I feel like I'm working sometimes in hindsight or tunnel vision because I don't see anything else. And
Totally.
I'm just working and doing epitome of epilepsy stuff. And I never stop to say, "Ooh, you're really doing a good job." I don't even I say that to myself. Yes, I do.
Good. Good. Yeah, because that's the most important person's opinion.
Mm-hmm. Is yours.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, JenVon, thank you so much for being here
Thank
and chatting with
you.
me. I could chat with you
Me
forever.
too. Me too. Look, we were already chatting before we even started.
I know. We had a whole podcast before
Conversation.
the podcast. Like, oh, we should probably hit record. Uh, but thank you so much. You're the absolute best, and I
Okay.
really appreciate you.